नमस्कार शिक्षार्थियों, आज के सेशन में आप सभी का स्वागत है। आज हम डिस्कस करेंगे साइकोलॉजी सेकेंडरी लेवल पे। हम चैप्टर आपके लिए लाए हैं लेसन नंबर 9, नेचर एंड डिटरमिनेंट्स ऑफ डेवलपमेंट। सो वील बिगिन विद इट। फर्स्ट वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस द ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ द लेसन। द फर्स्ट ऑब्जेक्टिव इज अंडरस्टैंडिंग द नेचर ऑफ डेवलपमेंट and distinguishing it from other related concepts. So we'll be discussing development, and there are certain other domains or concepts that are related to development, and we'll try to differentiate between these different aspects. Okay, next we'll be understanding the important domains and stages of human development. So we'll be talking about the different stages that are there in lifespan development of a human. Next we'll be exploring major genetic and environmental influences on human development, and we'll be learning about the effects of environmental factors on prenatal as well as postnatal development. Okay, so let's move forward. Several changes, so we are starting off with the introduction now. Several changes happen each day in our bodies and psychological functioning. So here, as you can see, it states that on a daily basis there are a lot of changes happening in our body. These are at physiological level and at psychological level as well. Okay, some changes are noticeable while some cannot be immediately or clearly observed. So it says that some changes can be seen. They are outward in nature, they are overt in nature, whereas some cannot be seen right at that point in time. It takes these changes some time to manifest themselves in terms of behavior. Next, it says that some of these changes are determined more by hereditary or genetic factors, while some depend more on environmental and cultural factors. So here it says that some of the changes that are occurring are due to the genetics of a person, the heredity that a person has got from their ancestors, and some changes are based on the environment, the culture they are developing in. The growth is happening in an environment, in a society, and this society and environment will also influence the development of a person. Next, we are going to discuss nature of development. Development, we are going to define development first. So it is referred to as the dynamic process by which an individual grows and changes throughout its lifespan. So here it is said that dynamic process है development. As you can see, referred to as the dynamic process. What does dynamic means? Dynamic means a system that is constantly changing. It is not constant in nature. It is not rigid. There is something or the other happening while development is taking place. So it is dynamic in nature. It is constantly moving. It is constantly flowing, which an individual grows, by which an individual grows and changes throughout its lifespan. So here you can see that it has been written that changes throughout its lifespan. तो यानी कि हम बर्थ से लेके डेथ तक पूरा टाइम स्पैन काउंट करते हैं when we talk about lifespan. And similarly, when we talk about development itself, we mean that development is happening from the period of the child is conceived, the baby is conceived, till the point this baby gets into adolescence, adulthood, and later old age, and then death. So development is happening in a continuous manner. It does not stop at any point in time. There are certain cases where development stops, and these are sometimes referred to as abnormalities in development. So that is a separate aspect of development, and if you are interested in reading the abnormalities of development, you can refer to texts like Laura Bach, and there is Morgan and King. You can refer to these texts as well. So let's focus on the nature of development now. So it is qualitative in nature. Development is qualitative in nature. It has qualities. You can't just quantify development like that. It can be quantified also, but more or so it is qualitative in nature. and includes all areas. So development include all the areas of human development, such as physical development, motor development, cognitive development, physiological development, social, emotional, and personality development. So these are the aspects of development or the areas or domains of development that we generally study when it comes to human development. Okay, so the development in all these areas is interrelated. So what we are trying to say here is that, development is happening in all these areas, but it's not happening separately in each area. They all are dependent on each other internally. That's why interdependent. So let's understand it a little, more depth में. So physical, motor, cognitive, physiological, social, emotional, and personality. How are they connected? So let's see an example. So for example, if a child is, let's say, 5-year-old, and this child, now the child have proper hand movements. The child has a good pincer grasp as well. Pincer grasp is holding the pencil. So for example, if I have this pen and I hold it like this is pincer grasp. पेंसिल को ग्रास्प करने के लिए जो ग्रास्प होता है उसे हम पिंसर ग्रास्प कहते हैं. सो अगर एक 5 साल का बच्चा है, उसका पिंसर ग्रास्प थोड़ा रिफाइन हो चुका है क्योंकि उसकी जो बॉडी की फिजिकल डेवलपमेंट है, जो उसकी मसल का स्ट्रक्चर है फिंगर्स का, वो उस तरीके से अब डेवलप हो रहा है. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट थिंग, उसकी आई हैंड कोऑर्डिनेशन की देखते हुए नोटबुक पे लिखना या बोर्ड पे देखते हुए नोटबुक पे लिखना, तो उसका आई हैंड कोऑर्डिनेशन भी अब लिखने के लिए बैठने लगा है. इट्स बैलेंसिंग, क्योंकि पहले क्या होता है, बच्चा या तो देखेगा या लिखेगा. नाउ एज द चाइल्ड इज ग्रोइंग अप, एक आई हैंड कोऑर्डिनेशन बैलेंस हो जाएगा एंड द चाइल्ड विल बी एबल टू write properly and see the stimulus also, and they will be able to correct themselves also. If there is some error in the text that they are writing, they can see it because they have eye hand coordination as well. So these movements will come under fine motor movements. There are two types of motor movements, gross motor movements and fine motor movements. So जो pencil का जो movement है, जो हम लिखने के लिए use करते हैं, that is fine motor movements. Why fine? बिकॉज इसमें बहुत ही फाइन मसल्स का यूज होता है. ग्रॉस मोटर मूवमेंट में आएगा वॉकिंग, रनिंग, क्योंकि इसमें हमारी जो बड़ी बड़ी मसल्स हैं उनका इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, फुल बॉडी इन्वॉल्वमेंट है. वेयर एज व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट राइटिंग, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट द फाइनर मसल्स. सो दैट इज व्हाई फाइन मोटर मूवमेंट. नाउ कॉग्निटिव, अगर बच्चा कुछ टेक्स्ट कॉपी कर रहा है, इसका मतलब उसे समवॉट एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग है दैट this symbol means this. For example, if you ask a 5-year-old to write an A, the child will be able to do it. If the child is going to school and is getting education, the child will be able to write A for you. How? इसका जो physical motor development है of actually holding the pencil and then writing, एक तो वो develop हो जाएगा. दूसरा, cognition उसका वो develop हो चुका है कि वो समझ सके what is an A. जब उससे बोला जाए कि A लिखो, तो उसको वो इंस्ट्रक्शन समझ में आ रहा है. सो दैट इज कॉग्निशन. फिजियोलॉजिकल में आपके जो इंटरनल बॉडी स्ट्रक्चर्स है, फॉर एग्जांपल योर डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम, योर रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम, ऑल दैट कम्स अंडर द फिजियोलॉजिकल सिस्टम. सो वो भी उस तरीके से डेवलप हो रहे हैं. सोशल, इमोशनल एंड पर्सनैलिटी इज ऑल्सो अ पार्ट ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. सोशल इज द सोसाइटी यू आर ग्रोइंग अप इन, योर सोशल एनवायरमेंट, family, your friends, your teachers, your school, all that comes under social development. Whereas emotional is more or so, the kind of relationship you form, the kind of affection that you form for other people, for your own self, and self-esteem and your self-focused emotions will come under emotional development. Personality is a whole aspect of you. What you think about yourself, what are your traits, what is your personality trait? Are you an introvert? Are you an ambivert? Are you an extrovert? So all that will come under personality. So these are the different domains of development. Now we saw how the development is interrelated in these areas. So let's move forward. So these changes takes place in an orderly manner and are not always incremental or evolutionary. What do we mean by that? We said that, okay, these changes that are happening while the development is taking place, they are orderly in nature. By orderly, we mean that, they more or so occur in a sequence. First, for example, a child will learn to start blabbering. So they will, start making noise with their mouth of baba. They will start that, and eventually and gradually they will start speaking the particular language that they have been observing as they are growing up in a particular environment. So this was sequenced. This was orderly manner. Next it says that, these are not always incremental or evolutionary. Why not always incremental or evolutionary? Sometimes, there are certain cases where the norms of development are not followed. So that is why it has been mentioned that sometimes they might not be incremental in nature or evolutionary. Okay, so they may also involve a decline in the functioning called involution. So development is not always, going upward. Sometimes development also means, there are certain decrease in the particular, let's say, particular aspect of growth, or there has been certain changes in the process of development of a particular aspect. So it is a gain-loss relationship in which newer and different kinds of changes take place. So here it has been mentioned that it is a gain-loss process. How? Sometimes what happens is, there's this process in our brain, synaptic pruning. So what happens in synaptic pruning is that, certain neurons of your brain which haven't been used in a long while, they start to, they kind of destroy themselves, or let's say they get kind of pruned. Pruning is basically, if you have heard the term in text of gardening, pruning का मतलब होता है जो भी extra है उसको आप काट छाट करते हो. So that is pruning. Synaptic pruning means जो न्यूरॉन्स बहुत टाइम से जो साइनेप्सेस यूज नहीं हुई हैं उनको खत्म करना. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो पार्ट ऑफ डेवलपमेंट, बट इट इज इन्वॉल्यूशन इन नेचर, बिकॉज हियर द डोमेन विच इज फोकसिंग हियर इज दैट आपके जो न्यूरॉन्स हैं वो खत्म हो रहे हैं, रादर देन फॉर्मिंग न्यू कनेक्शंस. जो यूज नहीं हुए उन्हें खत्म किया जा रहा है. सो दैट इज व्हाई दिस इज अ गेन लॉस रिलेशनशिप in which newer and different kinds of changes takes place. Next, development is shaped by the joint influences of both nature and nurture, and in a cultural context. So when we talk about nature, we are talking about something that you have in you, something that comes along as you were born, which is your gene and heredity, because you have got the genes and heredity from your parents and ancestors. But when we talk about nature, we are talking about the environment of the child. We are talking about the physical and social ecology environment, and a cultural context also, because children are growing in a cultural setup. Next, now we are going to discuss the key developmental concepts. So let's go about it. I hope it is clear till here, and if you have any doubt, please post it in the chat box. We'll discuss them in the last 5-10 minutes of this session. Okay, the first term that we are going to discuss is growth. Growth generally refers to the quantitative addition or changes in the organic structure. So growth basically means it is quantitative in nature, and second, it is organic in nature. How? See, development can be psychological, cognitive as well, whereas growth will be something that can be quantified, more or so quantified. So what happens is, growth में जैसे अगर हम देखें, when a baby is conceived, तो उसका जो embryonic development से लेके fetus बनने तक का जो process है, that will come under growth. It will come under development as well, and we'll discuss how. But for now, we have to understand that because it is organic in nature, it will be counted as growth. Next, development. So development is a broader term which includes growth, and it is also used to refer functional and qualitative changes in cognitive ability, perceptual ability, personality and emotional development, and so on. So let's go about it once more and see what are the highlights of this definition of development. First, it is a broader term. Okay, so development is a broader term which includes growth. We earlier mentioned, abhi just like 5 seconds back, we were saying that growth comes under development. Okay, so that is why development is the broader term which includes growth also, and it is also used to refer to functional and qualitative changes. Functional are, the functioning that a person does. It can include brain functioning, it can include your hand and hand-leg coordination, eye-hand coordination, all that, because it is a part of your functioning. Okay, qualitative changes in cognitive ability, your cognition, perceptual ability. When we talk about perception, how you perceive things, how you interpret stimulus, how you interpret information and then react to it. The next, personality and emotional development, and so on. So development is a broader term. It includes growth in it, and it includes functional and qualitative changes that occur in the different domains of developmental areas. Okay, I hope this is clear till here. Okay, so just a moment. Now we'll be discussing maturation. So maturation is the concept of development only. So because we are talking about the key concepts here. So growth,
प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने, जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने। धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय के लोच से युक्त हो, कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो, मित्रों हम उठे और जागे, मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने। बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर शिक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बात कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने हम अपना जीवन स्वयं बने हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने स्वयं बने हम
वेलकम बैक। तो ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले हम डिस्कस कर रहे थे की कॉन्सेप्ट्स ऑफ डेवलपमेंट। सो वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट, वी वर मूविंग फॉरवर्ड मैच्योरेशन. So maturation is a term that refers to the natural unfolding of changes with increasing age. तो यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हैं कि maturation is basically a process that basically describes the natural unfolding. You know, it is happening as you grow up on its own. यहाँ पे कोई हम environmental या कोई societal aspect अभी count in नहीं कर रहे हैं. We are just saying that, you know, it is natural unfolding of changes with increasing age. So as you are growing up, as your age is increasing, these changes, you know, unfold themselves. It refers to the changes which are primarily biological in nature and occur due to our genetic program. So here it says that, you know, these changes are more or so biological in nature and they occur due to our genetic material. So the kind of genetics that we have, the kind of heredity that we have got, maturation will depend upon that. The kind of changes that will take place under maturation will depend upon the genetics of a person. Okay, so next we'll be discussing learning. How learning influences development. Okay, so changes in behavior also occur due to learning. We know that because we have done the chapter learning earlier. So learning takes place as a result of a person's interaction with the environment. As you interact with the environment, you gain certain experiences. And when you are, you know, interacting with the environment and gaining those experiences, these experiences will be stored in your memory also. It depends, short term, long term, or you will be able to recall them or not. That will, you know, that is a different story. But for now, we can say that, you know, when you are interacting with the environment, you gain certain experiences and these experiences are stored in your memory, which you recall later on when they are required. So this is learning. Maturation provides raw material and sets the stage for learning to occur. So what maturation does is, you know, maturation gives you the raw material. In what sense? So because of maturation, we have certain body structures which help us in, you know, doing certain activities. For example, if we talk about running, if I have not, you know, controlled my legs and I don't have a, you know, balance walk, तो I won't be able to run as well. तो ये जो changes हैं, ये होने जरूरी है. क्यों? क्योंकि ये मेरी आगे की एक्टिविटी को भी इन्फ्लुएंस करेंगे. अगर मैं प्रॉपरली वॉक ही नहीं कर पाऊंगी तो मैं प्रॉपरली रन भी नहीं कर सकती. ओके, सो मैच्योरेशन क्या करता है? एक जेनेटिक मटेरियल आया जिसकी वजह से मेरी पूरी डेवलपमेंट हुई. जीन्स में मेरे ब्रेन से लेके मेरे हाथों की कैसी बनावट होगी, आईज का कलर क्या होगा, हेयर का क्या कलर होगा, एवरीथिंग इज प्री डिटरमाइंड बिकॉज ऑफ द जीन्स. ओके, सो मैच्योरेशन जैसे जैसे होती है, ये सारी जो इंफॉर्मेशन है ये मेरे फिनोटाइप और जीनोटाइप में विजिबल होनी शुरू हो जाती है. सो विल टॉक अबाउट जीनोटाइप एंड फिनोटाइप अ लिटिल लेटर, बट फॉर नाउ, सो मैच्योरेशन अकर्स ड्यू टू जेनेटिक्स. और यही जो मेरी जेनेटिक्स का जो मैनिफेस्टेशन हुआ है वो मेरी लर्निंग के होने में हेल्प करेगा. ओके, सो मैच्योरेशन एंड लर्निंग जॉइंटली ब्रिंग अबाउट चेंजेस इन अ पर्सन्स बिहेवियर, because as you are growing up, as maturation is taking place, and side by side you are interacting with the environment also, you are gaining certain experiences, and while you are gaining these experiences, you are, storing them in your memory. And when you store them in your memory, you will recall them later when they are required. So this is how the whole development is taking place when it comes to maturation and learning. I hope this is clear, and if there are any questions, please post it in the chat box. So now we are going to talk about evolutionary changes. Evolutionary changes, species specific changes होते हैं ये, happen very gradually and are passed on from one generation to the other so that the species is better equipped for survival. We all have, must have studied the theory of Darwin, which is survival of the fittest. So survival of the fittest talks a lot about, evolutionary changes. If something is useful to a species in their survival, that, that skill or that particular biological change or biological experience will be, given to the coming up generations. It will be passed on basically. So for example, let's say there is this bird. Okay, so this bird has a particular mating song. Okay, now, as the bird is growing up, so for example, a baby bird was born. It is a male baby bird because this song is peculiar to the males only in that particular species of the bird. Okay, तो अब क्या होगा, ये जो मेल स्पीसी है बर्ड की, ये वाली कि जो ये पर्टिकुलर सॉन्ग गाती है मेटिंग के लिए, एक बेबी बर्ड हुआ मेल. अब जब वो बेबी बर्ड मेल बड़ा होगा धीरे धीरे, तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली उस मेटिंग सॉन्ग को गाने लगता है. अब कई बार इसको एक्सप्लोर करने की कोशिश की गई कि ये कैसे हो रहा है, but this is something which has become a part of their genetic information which is being passed on to them, because this helps them in their survival and the survival of their species, because this mating song will help them in reproducing and, increasing their population, which is a way of survival of a particular species. So that's how, sometimes evolutionary changes takes place and they are passed on to generations so that their survival can be ensured. I hope this is clear till here. Now we are going to talk about certain characteristics of development. So first is, it's a lifelong process. Development, starts as the child is conceived and goes on till death. Okay, next it is systematic, progressive and orderly. We have already discussed why it is orderly and progressive. And it is multidirectional. Why multidirectional? Because there is no one unitary aspect of development. Multiple domains are there: cognitive, physical, mental. So, there are multiple domains involved under development. It is quantitative and qualitative in nature, continuous and discontinuous, multidimensional and interrelated, plastic in nature. Plastic in nature means basically, sometimes if a particular plasticity is basically when, certain function is not being done by the brain. So for example, let's take a little big example here. So what happens is, if somebody got injured in an accident and let's say a nerve of the brain got, damaged in that accident, and now the person is not able to write properly. Okay, so as the time, pass on, what happens is this person's brain will try to adapt and the function of that particular nerve which was damaged will be given to some other part also of the brain. So now this other part of the brain will help in writing the person better. So this is plasticity, कि अगर कुछ कहीं पे ब्रेन में डैमेज हो गया है कोई एक पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन का एरिया, तो ब्रेन उस पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन के जो पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन है वो किसी और एरिया को देना शुरू कर देगा. सिमिलर थिंग इज विद डेवलपमेंट, क्योंकि डेवलपमेंट इज रिलेटेड टू आवर बायोलॉजिकल एंड फिजियोलॉजिकल एस्पेक्ट्स एज वेल. नेक्स्ट इज इट इज कंटेक्चुअल. कंटेक्चुअल इन द सेंस जहां पे भी हो रही है, कल्चरल एस्पेक्ट्स, एनवायरमेंटल एस्पेक्ट्स, सोसाइटल एस्पेक्ट्स will influence the development of a person. So that's why it is contextual as well. Individual differences, there will be individual differences in the development of a person from, the whole population. That's why it is said that everyone is unique, because हर किसी का डेवलपमेंट का जो प्रोसेस है वो बिल्कुल सिमिलर नहीं है. क्वालिटेटिव चेंजेस कुछ ना कुछ हम लोगों में एक दूसरे से होते ही हैं. सो वी ऑल आर नॉट अलाइक. ओके, आई होप दिस इज क्लियर टिल हियर. Now we are going to discuss domains of development. First, we are going to discuss physical and motor development. So, it refers to changes in body size and structure, functioning of various body systems, brain development, perceptual and motor development. So, basically we are talking about the body size and structure when it comes to physical development. Motor development, as you know, earlier also I mentioned that motor development is divided into two parts, which is gross motor development and fine motor development. So gross motor development is, you know, the development of the major muscles of the body or major bones of the body. For example, our arms in totality, our legs in totality, our torso. But when it comes to fine motor movements, we are talking about finger movements. It can be, you know, your feet finger or your hands finger, or let's say this is a fine motor movement. Actually, this is a motor movement, or you identify it for me. Okay, so this is fine and gross motor movement. But walking includes your whole body, so it is a fine motor movement. So it's a question to you: if moving my neck in, you know, left and right direction, is it fine motor movement or is it gross motor movement? Okay. Next, we are going to discuss cognitive development. It refers to the development of cognitive and intellectual processes. So here we are going to talk about the cognition and intellectual processes, including memory, language, attention, intelligence, knowledge, problem solving, imagination and creativity. So when we talk about cognitive development, you know, we are talking about these particular aspects. You know, planning and so basically planning can also be involved in cognitive development. लेकिन हम जो basic बात करने वाले हैं, that is memory, language development and attention processes, intelligence, knowledge, problem solving, imagination and creativity. Okay, so if there is any particular question regarding cognitive development as of now, you can post it in the chat box. But what is to be noted here is that, you know, when we talk about cognitive development, we are talking about abilities which are abstract in nature. Okay, these are not visible as such, but they manifest themselves in terms of behavior. So what I mean to say here is that when you talk about cognitive development, हम उन एक्टिविटीज की बात करेंगे जिनको हम देख नहीं सकते, लेकिन हम अपने बिहेवियर में उन्हें यूज करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल थिंकिंग को हम देख नहीं सकते हैं, लेकिन हम थिंकिंग करते हैं थ्रू आउट. This is the fact that, you know, while we are sleeping and we are dreaming, it is also a kind of thinking. It is called as autistic thinking. You know, it is personal in nature because it is up to us only while we are in a particular state of mind. Okay, so thinking is going on all the time, but we are not able to see it. Similarly, memory. We are not able to see memory, but we know that, you know, we store information, we process it, and whenever it is required, we recall it and we use it. So, cognitive जो developmental aspects हैं, वो more or so abstract होते हैं, but they manifest themselves in our behavior, and that is how we gauge them. Okay? So, now we are going to discuss socio-emotional development. So, it refers to how we develop relationships with other people and how our emotions emerge and change as we grow older. These domains or areas are interrelated and combine in a holistic manner to make a person's developmental pattern unique. So here we are talking about how we form relationship, you know, with the society, you know, the people around us, and how as we are growing up, we try to, you know, understand our emotions, how we try to, you know, see other people, how we try to understand their emotion and giving reaction to these emotions and controlling these emotions and expressing these emotions. Okay, so basically emotional development is, you know, when you know what you are feeling right now, and based on that you try to handle the situation. So for example, if you were in a situation where you are feeling very angry right now, Okay, and when you are feeling angry, you want to react in a very, let's say, aggressive manner. You want to, let's say, break something. But you know that, damaging property is not right. So you will control your aggressive, this aggressive drive that you have, and you will try to behave in a manner which does not damage anything and does not damage you as well. So this is emotional development. When you know how you are feeling, and if you are feeling, good, sharing it with others, and if you are feeling aggressive, trying to, deal with the aggression in a positive manner. Rather than damaging something, maybe, try to do any other activity. Maybe you try to run so that, this energy of aggression is put in the racing. So that can be one thing. Okay. Now next it says that, these domains or areas are interrelated. So social and emotional development are interrelated, and all the other aspects of development are also interrelated. We have discussed that earlier also. And combine in a holistic manner to make a person's developmental pattern unique. Each and every one of us, have certain experience which are unique to us and make us a unique individual. Okay, make us a unique individual. Okay, so this is a diagram which represents how these development aspects are interrelated. Physical is related with cognitive, cognitive is related with, socio-emotional, and socio-emotional is related to physical. So, there is a crossing in between all the three aspects of development. So, these all are interrelated in nature. Okay, now we are going to discuss the stages of development. So there are 8 stages of development as of now, as we have mentioned on screen. So the human lifespan can be divided into the following stages. Let's discuss their characteristics also while we go through them one by one. Okay, so first is prenatal period, which is from conception to birth. Single-celled organism changes into a human baby within the womb. Okay, so the human baby starts growing from a single cell and become multicellular in a period of 9 months in the womb, and comes out in the form of a human baby. So this was the first stage, which was prenatal period, where the basic development is happening. The organs are developing, brain is developing, spine is developing, the different body structures such as heart, hands, legs, all these things are forming and developing. Okay, next is infancy and toddlerhood, which is birth to 2 years. So rapid changes in the body and brain occur at this particular stage, because the child is new in the world. The child is exploring, so much of information is available to the child, and the child is trying to understand what is actually happening. Because as the child is born, this child have very limited understanding, or let's say they have very limited resources. So for example, they can cry when they are hungry, they will cry when they are in pain, and they will cry when they are missing their caregiver. So they have very limited resources in terms of expressing themselves, and they have a social smile, but they don't know what is the context to smile on. But as they grow up, as they are developing, they will understand when to smile and when not to smile. Okay, next is early childhood, 2 to 6 year old. Motor skills are refined, language develops, ties are formed with peers, and the child learns through play. तो यहाँ पे अर्ली चाइल्डहुड में बच्चे की मोटर डेवलपमेंट बहुत तेजी से होगी, उसकी लैंग्वेज भी डेवलप होनी शुरू हो जाएगी, और वो अपने peers के साथ रिलेशंस बनाने लगेगा इन टर्म्स, लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड इट दैट वे कि अब वो फ्रेंड्स बनाने शुरू कर देगा कि ओके, दिस पर्सन ए इज माई फ्रेंड एंड दिस पर्सन बी इज नॉट माई फ्रेंड. तो उसको वो कॉन्सेप्ट समझ में आने लगेगा. ओके, एंड यहाँ पे बच्चा प्ले के थ्रू बहुत कुछ सीखता है. मेजर एस्पेक्ट जो होता है, मेजर एक्टिविटी जो होती है ड्यूरिंग अर्ली चाइल्डहुड इज प्ले. दैट्स वाई इस टाइम पे बच्चे को प्ले स्कूल में भी एनरोल किया जाता है. सो नेक्स्ट इज मिडिल चाइल्डहुड विच इज 6 to 11 years. Acquires literacy skills. बच्चा पढ़ना लिखना बेसिक सीखने लगता है, जैसे राइटिंग अ टेक्स्ट और स्क्रिप्ट, है ना, और अंडरस्टैंडिंग इंस्ट्रक्शंस, एंड गिविंग एग्जाम्स ऑल्सो बिकम वन थिंग विच इज समथिंग दैट द चाइल्ड इज एबल टू डू इन दिस एज ग्रुप. Thought processes are refined, friendships emerge, and self-concept is formed. Self-concept by this stage is formed, and it is a very important aspect of what a child is going to be as they grow up to be an adult. Okay, so next is adolescence, which is 11 to 20 year. It is the period of puberty, onset of rapid physical and hormonal changes, emergence of abstract thinking, sexual maturity, stronger peer ties, sense of self and autonomy from parental control. So these are the features of adolescence age group. I don't think that I need to explain it much more, because we all have studied so much and we have seen so much when it comes to adolescence. Sometime or the other, each one of us has been through that stage or is going through this stage currently, and we relate to this. So when it comes to, let's say, adolescence, hormonal changes occur, and the primary and sexual characteristics are also refining. So what happens is, because there are so many changes that are happening in a person's body, they feel very, let's say, agitated. Okay, and they don't know how to express it, because people are telling them that you are a grown up now, but at the same time they are not allowed to act like a grown up. They are not allowed to take their own decisions, and they don't know how to tackle this right now. Okay, so adolescence is something that can go on, and we can talk about it for a long period of time. It's it is also called as the period of storm and stress, and you know very well why, and if you don't, please explore it, why adolescence is called the period of stress and storm. Okay, so let's move forward. Now we are going to discuss early adulthood. Age group is 20 to 40 year. So here the individuals get involved in higher education, finds a career, forms intimate relationships leading to marriage and having children. So this is one normal flow that they have shown, that generally this happens, that the person gets into higher education, or they may find themselves in a certain employment because maybe they don't want to continue in education, they want to earn their money and they want to live on their own and independently, or sometimes they want to support their family. That can also be one reason. And they form intimate relationships leading to marriage and having children. Next is middle adulthood, which is 40 to 60 year. In this stage, the person is at the peak of their career. There is need to help children, begin independent lives, and to look after own parents who are aging. So यहाँ पे 3 highlights. The person will be on the peak of their career. They will be looking after that their children become independent and they start their life. The children starts their own life, and this person who is in middle adulthood will also take care of their parents who are aging. Next and last is late adulthood, which is 60 year till death. Retirement from work, decrease in stamina and physical health, bonding with grandchildren, and dealing with impending old age and death of self or the spouse. So these are the highlights of late adulthood that generally this pattern has been seen. Okay, so in indigenous view, so we are going to talk about life stages when it comes to Indian context. Ancient texts viewed lifespan in 4 stages called ashramas. These stages or ashramas are based on the principle that a human being should grow, participate and discharge worldly duties, and contribute to progress and welfare of society, move towards liberation and spiritual growth. So these are the 4 stages. Brahmacharya, which is student life. Yes.
What is means by ashramas, ma'am?
Sorry.
Ashramas.
So we are discussing ashramas only. So ashramas is इंडियन कंटेक्स्ट में लाइफ स्टेजेस को कैसे डिफाइन किया गया है. तो पहला आश्रम है ब्रह्मचर्य आश्रम, विच विल इंक्लूड स्टूडेंट लाइफ, जहां पे इंसान एजुकेशन अपनी लेता है. देन मूव्स टू गृहस्थ आश्रम, जिसे गृहावस्था भी कहते हैं, which is work. So the person will work and raise a family. Next is vanaprastha, period of seclusion. So you will try to leave everything and you will try to find solace in the environment. Okay. And last is sannyas, detachment from worldly objects. Is there any doubt in these 4 stages? I think there is no doubt, so I'll move forward with developmental task. So each developmental stage is characterized by a dominant feature or a leading characteristic which determines its uniqueness. So we are talking about कि हर स्टेज में कुछ पर्टिकुलर एक ऐसा फीचर है, एक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है उस स्टेज का जो कि उसकी यूनिकनेस को बताता है. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल जब भी अभी हमने ब्रह्मचर्या में देखा स्टूडेंट लाइफ कहा हमने, तो स्टूडेंट लाइफ में एजुकेशन एक जो है बहुत मेजर टास्क है. तो ब्रह्मचर्य का मेजर टास्क जो है वो है एजुकेशन. तो ये उसका एक डेवलपमेंटल टास्क हुआ, गेनिंग एजुकेशन. ओके, people learn certain behavior patterns and skills more easily and successfully at certain stages and this becomes a social expectation. ब्रह्मचर्य में अगर कोई इंसान है, मान लीजिए उसकी एज है 14 years, ओके, तो वो इंसान एजुकेशन हायर लेवल की नहीं ले सकता. कॉलेज लेवल एजुकेशन हम उसे नहीं दे सकते, उसे हमें स्कूल लेवल एजुकेशन देनी होगी क्योंकि अभी उसका ब्रेन उतना डेवलप्ड है कि वो उस पार्ट ऑफ एजुकेशन को अच्छे से समझ सके और ग्रास्प कर सके. Whereas वहीं जब हम अडल्टहुड में आएंगे, जब हम हायर एजुकेशन की बात करेंगे, तो इंसान का ब्रेन इतना डेवलप हो गया है कि वो उस एजुकेशन को समझ सकता है. ओके, लास्ट इज इन्फ्लुएंसेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. सो व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट इन्फ्लुएंसेस ऑन डेवलपमेंट? फर्स्ट इज जेनेटिक इन्फ्लुएंस. Different genes are transferred from each child of the same set. So there is a change little here. So different genes are transferred from each parent to the child. तो यहाँ पे to the child होगा of the same set of parents. Okay, so due to this, so what happens is हर parent से एक set of gene आता है, एक set of gene आता है और फिर वो मिलके बच्चे को 2 set of genes मिलते हैं. Okay, due to this reason each child bears greater similarity to his or her blood relatives than to anyone else. At the same time, there are also many differences amongst blood relatives. कि बच्चे में ब्लड रिलेटिव्स के साथ ज्यादा सिमिलैरिटी होती है rather than जो नॉन ब्लड रिलेटिव्स हैं. Why is that so? क्योंकि उनके साथ वो जेनेटिक शेयर करता है. ओके, एंड नाउ वी आर ऑन जेनोटाइप एंड फिनोटाइप. तो जीन्स डोमिनेंट हो सकते हैं और रेसेसिव हो सकते हैं. तो अगर डोमिनेंट जीन अपने आप को दिखाता है तो बच्चे के जो डोमिनेंट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है वो डोमिनेंट जीन वाले हो जाएंगे और रेसेसिव वाला छिप जाएगा. लेकिन रेसेसिव वाला आगे कहीं शो कर सकता है अपने आप को. ऐसा नहीं कि वो कभी शो नहीं करेगा, कभी आगे कहीं शो कर सकता है किसी और जनरेशन में. नेक्स्ट, जीनोटाइप रेफर्स टू द एक्चुअल जेनेटिक मटेरियल और अ पर्सन्स जेनेटिक हेरिटेज. जो जीन्स आप में आए हैं वो है आपका जीनोटाइप. Phenotype refers to the individual's physical and behavioral characteristics which are determined by both genetic and environmental factors. तो phenotype में आपके genes और environment दोनों involved हैं. So we'll be ending here today and we'll discuss the environmental factors and the little remaining portion in the next session. So thank you for listening to us and thank you for being here.